Welcome to the Dr. Erin Show. May you live your truth. Live from Los Angeles, this is Dr. Erin, Doctor of Divinity. We come together each day to know the truth, live on spiritual principle, align with universal law, and love our lives. We come together also as a spiritual community, as Soulciete. Our vision to be the #1 spiritual leaders community in the world, committed to enlightenment, empowerment, and entrepreneurship. We have the mission of awakening 1 billion people globally, and how we are definitely going to do this is by developing world-class spiritual leaders. So let's do this thing, you guys. We're on love and relationships. We're diving deep into this. We're going to talk about sexuality. What's love got to do with it? Marilyn Monroe said, "It's not true I didn't have anything on. I had on the radio." Love her, right? So sexuality, I think it's a really fascinating topic. And I remember years back, I was friends with some people that were polyamorous. And if you don't know what that means it is a type of person that identifies as someone that loves many. So basically it means that they have relationships with more than one person. It's not an open relationship. It's literally where they have multiple relationships. And I remember being really traumatized, even just by the concept of the thought of people being in multiple relationships. It was very triggering for me. And so I began to dive deeper into why did that offend me so much? Because even though I am not polyamorous and I wasn't the one in the relationship or multiple relationships, just the thought of it triggered me. And it almost was triggering my own wounds, my own heartbreaks, my own traumas within my subconscious mind. So as I began to heal myself and deal with my traumas and begin to question, what limiting beliefs did I want to, no longer serve me, basically. And I began to inquire into what is relationship and where is the distinction between what I've seen in the movies and what the culture told me versus what is authentic for myself. So I began to dive into why was I being so triggered by friends that were choosing to be polyamorous, even though I wasn't. It was really a bizarre thing to even think that that could trigger me so much. So we want to dive into sexuality. And the reason why we want to dive into sexuality and inquire into our own sexuality is to find our truth, to find what authentically works for us versus what the culture has told us or what programming we've had. Okay, so sex is just another microcosm of the macrocosm of who you are in this life. Sex can either be a beautiful expression of who you are, or it can be a disempowering realm that leaves you heartbroken, lost, and dysfunctional. So just like all areas of life, sex has many realms, experiences, levels, and perspectives, right? So like all spiritual work, the goal is to align the physical, mental, and spiritual living your unique truth. We need to find out what is your truth versus what is other people. What have you learned through the movies and things versus what really is authentic for you and what is true for your nature, right? So, you may believe that the best sex is with someone you love on all levels, with one person. Well, others may have different preferences. They may have different perceptions of it, right? And I think the point of all human beings, in my opinion, is to allow people to have their own unique expression, to not make them wrong, and also be able to hold your boundaries for what works for you. Of course, there's all different levels of relationships. There's committed relationships, there's marriage, there's polyamory, there's monogamy, there's open marriages, gay, transsexual, heterosexual. I mean, you can go on and on about different expressions of sexuality and identities, right? So we want to delayer off the identities and come to your truth. Sex is just another gateway to observe how you are creating life. It can either be a beautiful expression or it can be an entangled entrapment. So, from a relative perspective, you may consider spiritual sex to be an experience in which there is an expression from an authentic and genuine space unifying hearts and souls, whereas objectifying sex may be considered an experience in which people are viewed as objects and souls feel divided and separate. These are just kind of a relative experience. The reality is that it's all the same. It's all spiritual, right? But we want to start delayering our thought. We want to dive into what is sexuality? What is this thing called sexuality? And the truth is this: sexuality is divine urge. It's a divine urge to express itself, to multiply itself, to prevail as a species, to survive in a bonding fashion. Sex unites people, and it makes us be loyal in a way that we bond through oxytocin and through all these things, so that we can help survive and offspring and having babies and all these things of a survival of our species. So it's really a beautiful thing if used in harmony. But when we have layers of trauma and we judge it and we harm people through it, obviously it's not a beautiful thing. So we want to discover what is true for you in the realm of sex. So like all things in this universe, sex is another form of communication, and it either can be dynamically used to create something magnificent, or it can be used to create chaos and discord. So just becoming mindful of what works for you, honoring your truth, honoring other people's truth, and not judging is kind of the goal of all this, right? So there's all kinds of sex. There's objectifying sex, there's tantra, there's Kama Sutra, there's just traditional sex. You can go on and on and on. There's all different layers. But if you want to dive into your sexuality, part of it is just diving into the communication, diving in the conversation, and looking at sex. What is sex? Why do you have the type of sex you have? What works for you? And do you want to dive deeper into it and explore that energy? It's a powerful, powerful force in there when you get into orgasm and this realm of this power, this feeling, right? If the universe and our subconscious mind and the subjective mind is informed by feeling, and orgasm is one of the most intense feelings we can have, imagine the potential of it in a beautiful, intentional way. We have to remember that oxytocin increases when we feel attracted to someone, which in turn stimulates dopamine to be released. So when we fall in love, as we, term it in our culture, it's really the heart. We have DNA. We have all kinds of infinite things that happen in the body, and it bonds us. It does all kinds of things. It's a survival mechanism. We get all kinds of things. We get flustered, we get excited. And it's our DNA's way of saying there's something here to explore. There's something beautiful here. It arouses us in many ways. Lust and estrogen and hormones and libido and sex drive and all these things. It's a deeper, deeper experience of life in a physical, emotional, and spiritual connection. Neurotransmitters are literally doing all kinds of insane things in the midst of flirting and dating and sex and all this. It's all entangled into this one chemical like explosion, adrenaline and sweat and heartbeat and all these things of falling in love. So love is no joke. It can actually be a major addiction as well. People get addicted to sex. They use sex. They manipulate sex. So this is an ongoing conversation of what happens to you. Are you thriving in your sexuality, or are you getting more and more trauma through your sexuality? How are you using oxytocin to develop and bond through beautiful sexuality? So when you experience love and attraction, it's a sign that you're in alignment with your higher self if it's used for good. If it's hurting you and there's discord and harm, then it's probably harming you in many ways. But it's a fascinating topic because if you think about it, did you know that the reality is that 75% of all women have never experienced an orgasm through sexual intercourse, according to James 2009. 75% of women have never experienced orgasm in America through intercourse. That's crazy, right? Freudians have us believing that women's inability to reach orgasm is because a woman is not grown up. So do you? What works for you in sexuality? What do you like? And sometimes it's important to experience and try new things and open up our mind and open up our body and open up to new possibility, new realms of ourselves. Our culture also has a big addiction to porn. And oftentimes porn is the type of objectifying. I personally don't like porn. I think it harms in a lot of ways because it takes away from two human beings in real life actually connecting, to being present with each other. But that's for me. I don't get to judge other people, and I don't care if that's their free choice. That's their free will. For me, I don't care for that. But you have to ask yourself what works for you. We're stressed out. People get stressed out. Women today, especially, we're supposed to make this money. We're supposed to be red carpet ready. We're supposed to be porn stars in bed. Like, it's a lot of pressure sometimes, sex. So it's important for you to look at yourself and think, what is it to have you feel safe and to be expressed and to have pleasure and to have it be a creative force to bond and create a beautiful soul relationship. Our entire culture is clearly experiencing disconnection from the soul and getting less and less intimate. We have our phones, we have our computers, all these things to distract us from being truly intimate. Intimacy does not just happen, in sexuality. Sexuality starts with the mind. It starts with a conversation. It starts with physically seeing someone. So sexuality is a way of life. It is the divine urge to express itself and reproduce itself and all the above. And then know that love is the only truth. And so this magical, mysterious, luminous, mystical thing called sexuality is a beautiful thing if used and directed in a loving way. So today's daily spiritual practice is to express your sexuality. What would it be like? What would it be like to express yourself sexually without any limitations? And maybe that's with one person, or maybe that is in polyamory. It's up to you to choose what works for you. So today's universal law is the law of gender, which is funny because the law of gender is basically within all creation is the masculine and feminine. The masculine is the aspect of manifesting that implants the seed of fertility. And the feminine is the subjective womb of life that births the creative action into form. Every thought is the masculine and every manifestation is the feminine. The form is the culmination of both. Energetically, all things are held in perpetuity by universal consciousness. Sexuality is the divine urge to create in its expression. So this is the deal. Sexuality, these roles and gender expressions are things that the culture made up. What is feminine and what's masculine? It doesn't mean long hair is only feminine or, all these things. There's some, gay men that are more feminine than women from a culture perspective. So we have to redefine who we are in our sexuality. Be you. Find what works for you. Let go of what the culture has told you and be sexually expressed as you, how it works for you. So today's practice is to express your sexuality. Today's challenge is to make a list. What are the reasons you withhold, block, and deny your sexuality? What limiting beliefs? What box have you put yourself in? What limited stories, judgments, and expectations are you projecting into your sexual life? What are all the reasons you don't have the intimacy that you desire? So make this whole list and then place it into a box, just as the list has put you into a box. And know that this box, you can release it to the universe and allow it to take care of itself, knowing that you are a divine sexual being and that you get to express yourself how you want to be expressed. So have a wonderful day, and may you live your truth. Thanks again for tuning in to Dr. Erin and Soulciete podcast. I'd like to invite you to write a review on iTunes. Also, I have a free gift for you, a money meditation and worksheet, which you can find at soulciete.com. That's www.soulciete.com. Or 30 guided meditations at drerin.tv. That's www.drerin.tv. We also hold monthly Soulciete events that are all about transformation and building extraordinary community. You can also watch me live daily on goodmorninglalaland.com or Instagram at drerin.tv. Grab your free manifestation masterclass with the purchase of my international best-selling book, Awakening. a 40-day guide to unleashing your spiritual powers, life purpose, and manifesting your dreams at erinfallhaskell.com/awakening book.